Hey guys, it's Deconic, and following the 3.20 Mirage patch notes and the changes to the base game, there are a few things I wanted to talk about when it comes to Wretched Defilers. So in this video, we're going to be going over the updates to the Wretched Defiler build and some general things that I think you should keep in mind. And before we get started, if you're new to the build and would like a more in-depth guide on what I'm about to go over, I'm going to link the original build video in the description as well as in my build spreadsheet. Feel free to use them. They are still very accurate. In Mirage League, my biggest question mark with everything comes with the rework of T17 maps into the new Nightmare maps. Now, I don't think there are going to be any changes that we necessarily have to worry about, but there's always going to be the slight chance that GGG makes changes to more packs and which ones are available where. And in this case, there is a non-zero chance that Wretched Defilers might not be available this league. It is very unlikely, and I need to stress that it's very unlikely that they would make a drastic change like this. But it's just something to watch out for, because in the reveal they already showed the abomination bosses, and this still look very much like the regular abomination layout that we are used to, which is, if you don't know, the T70 layout that has guaranteed defilers in it. So again, it is very unlikely, but it's never impossible, if that makes sense. But I just felt like I should mention it in case anything were to happen. Now, for the major updates to the build coming from Keepers of the Flame, we are just going to deal more damage with the build essentially without changing anything. And the main reason for that is this patch note right here that I have highlighted, which says it no longer race specters no longer gain and hitting more elemental damage bonus when converting their face to elemental, which doesn't affect Wretched Defilers. However, is a big nerf to specters that converted from face to elemental. But the important part we care about here is the second part that says they also now scale up their monster levels more at gem levels past 20, and they give an example where gem level 30 Race Spectre now is a level 85 monster rather than level 81. This effectively means that we just gain a ton of base damage to our Wretched Defilers just because they said so. Like I cannot stress how big this change is from a scaling point of view, because this means we just gain a lot more damage for a lot less investment, if you will, for the same investment basically. Now, aside this patch note, there are also going to be some other things that change going from Keepers of the Flame to Mirage. For example, we are going to be unspecking the Breachlord Ascendancy, because now there aren't grafts to give that Ascendancy anything anymore, and I do believe it was reworked. So now we're going to be switching from that, and we're going to be going into Plaguebringer, because with Plaguebringer we're going to be taking reduced damage from enemies as well as dealing more damage. It's a pretty good node, and in case you forget what we were taking before, we had this node which gave us less damage taken to the elements of our grafts, but again, this node was reworked. And while on the note of Blood and Ascendancies, this is not set in stone, I have to say, because while they were doing the reveal, they talked about how Mirage as a mechanic, the enemies we are facing are Necromancers, and then they proceeded to tease a new Blood and Ascendancy that would be coming from the boss from this mechanic essentially. So this image you see here is, as you can see, is from the Mirage content reveal, and this is what these nodes look like. They have minions in them, so there is every possibility that we might be getting our fourth Ascendancy coming from this bloodline. But seeing as we don't have actual information for this Ascendancy, we just have to wait and see essentially. But just keep that in mind that for now we're going to be tentatively Plaguebringer, and it is subject to change. But as always, for the most up-to-date POB, make sure you check my Google Sheet, as whenever the most recent change section changes, that means I've made an update, and you probably want to take the new POB from that and work with that instead. To just talk a bit more about the grafts we are going to be losing, we are going to be losing very defensive oriented grafts, because the builds used the molten graft, which was just a very cozy defensive layer, just a free molten shell. So that is going to be a loss we definitely feel, especially on the lower end while going through campaign and everything. And then we're going to be losing the Ul graft, which was max life and as well as physical damage reduction. It's sad to have our max it a bit lower, but like in the high budget, it doesn't really change anything. In the low and medium budget, we're just going to have to rely a bit more on the borrowed power from the Mirage to compensate. But overall, they were already tanky setups without the graft, so they are still going to be perfectly fine without them, you know. Other things to note about the leveling situation and the other POBs, just to quickly run through some things that might change between seasons, is Absolutions got buffed. So now our leveling which uses Absolution is going to incentivize us to keep using Absolution for a bit longer, because now they just deal more damage to their empowered attack, as well as Val Absolution, in a sense, just getting an extra 50% more damage for absolutely no reason. Just give it just free, you know. So that is going to be very, very comfortable change to, or the early game setup rather. Now, one of the things we are going to be getting from the new league is gem imbues, where essentially we're going to be able to corrupt our gem in our skill gems in a new way, where we basically gain a free support gem. Now, this isn't going to be a concern until most likely the high budget, because I suspect they might be on the pricier side to attempt, because off rip you need a level 20 gem, and that's is going to increase the value of level 20 gems. So just looking at the high budgets, if you want to understand what I'm thinking in terms of those extra support gems, you will notice that in the POB skill sections, you might have some certain gems that are level 1 and 0. If these are in any POB I make, it essentially means this is an imbue, because POB doesn't support actually showing the imbue the way it's supposed to be. So just watch out for the level. If it's level 1, 0 quality, odds are it is going to be the imbue for the socketed gem. And if there's like a POB that has multiple minions and there's like one, I will try to leave it, the second one that you're not imbuing, as a level 21, to make it obvious that you're going to imbue the level 20. Like in this case, you'd be imbuing the Erase Spectre. But for Wretched Defiler specifically, there really aren't many cases where this might be needed, except maybe like weapon 1, we might want to imbue life tap on Bone Offering, and obviously it wouldn't be Desecrate, but Desecrate is a skill gem and we don't really want that to be past level 1. So this one, by what I just said, would be confusing, which is why I'm pointing it out, that life tap would be the imbue here, Desecrate is a skill gem, and then Purity of Ice obviously is a skill, an aura gem. Now, as for the nitty-gritty on each of the POBs as to anything that changes, there might be a few tree tweaks and whatnot going from 3.27 to 3.20, but there's really nothing insane that changes. So there really isn't much I need to cover or explain as to what I am doing. I will, however, leave a low budget POB for Frostbearers, just in case you prefer the Frostbearer approach rather than the Wretched Defiler, just to flesh it out a bit more to make it a more viable choice if you choose to go that route. The biggest difference for those that don't know is Frostbearers tend to have a lot better, like reasonably better single targets, but with the speed of their projectiles, it can be annoying in practice to actually do said DPS. But that being said, they do scale way better on the lower budget than Wretched Defilers, and then Wretched Defilers come back in terms of wave clear on said lower budget. I do believe Wretched Defilers have better wave clear, worse single target, and then Frostbearers have better single target, worse wave clear. And then once you get to the high budget, Wretched Defilers also become really strong on the single target section. And then there's also the pet peeve that people have, where Frostbearers are also a bit on the squishier side. But again, that patch note where minions, where Erase Spectres are now a higher level past 20, should also help the Frostbearers to feel a bit tankier, to make them even a more comfortable choice in more dangerous content, essentially. But ultimately, it's up to you which version you go. Like I said, there really isn't that much of a difference. Both of them work very fine, and they are both very, very good. So it's really just a matter of preference as to which one you decide to go with. But like I said earlier, if you want a more in-depth guide as to the intricacies of this build, I will be linking the older video where I really talk about the different budgets and what you should be doing at different stages, because it's still very relevant. I am also going to be releasing and updating more build guides, so keep an eye out on the channel moving forward, because there are going to be quite a few videos that I have lined up. including what will be an absolution update, because I know I've gotten many questions about absolution with the buff. It is a very notable buff, and I will be updating that guide as well from Keepers of the Flame. Then I'm also going to be making a POB for Dominating Blow, because again, it just saw a buff and it's the most playable it's ever been, and not to mention it's a very efficient league start option. Same with Absolution, because they typically just don't need gear to function and can easily see you to like T60 maps with negative budget essentially, and potentially a bit more off meta builds coming somewhere along the line as well, or somewhere down the line after league launch and everything like that. But those are worries for the futures. If you haven't already, do consider liking and subscribing, as it helps the channel out a lot. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, or you can catch me live and ask there to get a real-time answer. As always, during league start, I'm going to be live for quite a bit, so at any point, if you have any questions, feel free to stop by. And with all that said, thank you for watching.